Hello, this is Allie with the Perception Trainers, author of The Perception Diet, and today we are going to talk about shame. So how to deal with shame. So shame is one of those really, really heavy negative emotions. And again, I say negative as a relative term, not because it's a bad emotion, not because it's an emotion that shouldn't exist, not because there's anything wrong with you or wrong with shame, okay? Just because it's one of those, we understand that, right? It's not one of the feel-good emotions, right? So shame is one of those emotions that can be a little bit tricky to deal with, okay? And it's because of our misunderstanding of what shame is doing and why it's there that makes it so difficult to deal with. That makes us as a human society kind of treat shame in the exact opposite way that we should treat it in order to actually heal from it, okay? So shame in and of itself, first and foremost, we need to understand that shame comes from abandonment, all right? So any part of you, anytime you feel shame, so this feeling of just deep self-loathing, deep self-hate, deep regret for what you've done, deeply feeling like you are just wrong and bad and unacceptable, unlovable, okay? It has its roots in probably your early childhood, okay? Where you felt emotionally abandoned by your caretakers, okay? So you either did something or said something or something went on, right? Where you were going on just as your child self, knowing what you knew, doing what you did, and probably being at an appropriate cognitive level for your time and space as a child, okay? You were going along and you did something or you said something that your caretakers, so the people that are completely responsible for keeping you alive, right? So your brainstem, your nervous system, everything about you relies upon this caretaker, right? For your food, for your clothes, for your shelter, for survival. And therefore it relies upon their acceptance and approval of you to survive. Watched you enact this behavior and essentially they shamed you for it, okay? So they made you feel that you were wrong and bad for doing or saying what you did, all right? So you were just going on, you did something, so maybe you, like there are many, like you said something inappropriate, or, well, that would have been inappropriate for an adult to say, all right? As a child, you did this. Maybe you did something that for an adult, an educated adult, that would have been inappropriate. Like maybe you killed an animal, or maybe you, came downstairs running around naked in front of guests, or maybe you pointed out that you thought someone was ugly, or thought someone was fat, or thought someone was whatever, like as a child, right? And your caretaker, your parent, the person that was responsible for keeping you alive, shamed you and blamed you. So they did not explain to you, okay honey, that's just not something that we say, right? This lady will get her feelings hurt if you say things like that to them and to her, and maybe this is just not an appropriate thing to say. We just don't say that. You're not bad, you're not wrong, you just didn't know, right? We wear clothes in front of guests, right? Because guests don't want to see your naked body, not because there's anything wrong with your naked body. Your naked body is beautiful and perfect and whole and awesome. This is just, society is like that. We like clothes. It's nothing to do with you. You're not wrong, you're not bad. This is just how society is, right? But what happened to you is you did this behavior, okay? And again, if your parents or your caretakers had understood where you were cognitively, it was not something that was wrong or bad. You simply didn't know. You didn't understand social convention. You weren't born with the inborn knowledge of all the things that your specific tribe finds appropriate and inappropriate. You had to learn that, okay? But generally speaking, our caretakers have shame inside of them. All right? And so when they see their child or the person that the child that they're taking care of enact these things that trigger a shameful response inside of them, rather than being able to walk the child through that and say, okay, this is inappropriate behavior. This is one of those things that we as a society don't do. It's okay. You're not wrong. You're not bad. You just didn't know, right? And maybe they've done it several times, and they're just learning, and you have to repeat it many times. The parent or the caretaker or the whoever was in charge of you had a shame reaction and then shamed you for it. You're wrong, you're bad. Go put on your clothes. That's not okay. It's not okay to say that. You're bad, you're wrong. Da-da-da. Right? You may not even remember this incident, but this is what happened. Okay? And in that moment where you were told that you were wrong or you were bad for not living up to the social conventions of your tribe at the time, because it was that caretaker who was shaming you for that, it actually activated in you a fear response that was so incredibly visceral, okay? That's so incredibly to your core, threatening your survival, that it caused you to actually create this emotion of shame that is essentially debilitating, okay? And from that moment, all right, that fear that ignited in you, that shame ignited in you, caused you to go down a path of believing there was something fundamentally wrong with you, right? Believing there's something fundamentally not right about you. And this is one of those things, is you might have this feeling that there's something fundamentally not right about you, and you can even look back at your childhood and think nothing happened. Like, my childhood was fine. Or, like, I just don't even remember a time in my life where I didn't feel like there was something fundamentally wrong with me. Like, of course there's something fundamentally wrong with me. Of course there is. You see what I'm saying? It made you believe there was something fundamentally wrong with you. The second thing, it made you believe that love could go away. This would have been one of the first times that you realized in your life that you could do something to cut love off from yourself. And for you, in that time, love and survival were the same thing, right? Your parent loving you and your parent keeping you alive, your caretaker, the person in your life that was responsible for your physical needs, was your definition of love, okay? So a threat of any kind to that relationship is literally igniting a survival mechanism inside your little tiny body that makes you believe that love can go away and therefore I could die, okay? And this is a powerful, powerful, powerful psychological system that then can go on for the whole rest of your life, right? So then you start to walk around in the world having things about you that you fundamentally believe are just horrible, right? Deplorable things about yourself. There are parts of your personality and parts of your being that you cannot accept because you find them so abhorrent, and you don't even question where that came from, why you hate yourself so much, why you hate this part of yourself so much, why you feel such deep shame about who and what you are, because it's been so rooted in your personal sense of self, in this psychology, since this very, very early childhood occurrence. Okay, and then again, so when this happened to you, you believed that there was something fundamentally wrong with you. You snapped into this reality that love could go away and therefore I can die, and that it's my fault. There's something wrong with me. And because you were a child and you didn't actually understand social convention, it was a mystery to you. You don't know what you did wrong. You don't know why it was wrong. You don't actually understand the whole process of it. All you know is now there's some things about me that are mysterious to me. I don't know why this is wrong. I don't know why this is bad. I don't even know what it was that was wrong or bad, right? I was just going on being myself just like I normally am, and that's usually fine, and then all of a sudden it wasn't. I don't understand this. I don't understand social convention. My cognitive ability is not at this place now. All I know is now I have no idea when or where love is going to go away. I have no idea when my then nourishment is going to go away. And now it's my fault. And so I'm going to be on constant alert constantly looking out, constantly freaking out about what might be wrong with me, what I could do because I don't understand it. I don't understand the system, right? But there's something fundamentally flawed about me, and I gotta look for it and look for it and look for it and be on alert for it all the time for the rest of my life in order to continue to get my needs met. And thus we have shame. Okay? So because you were shamed for something you didn't understand, right? That made you believe there was something fundamentally wrong with you, something fundamentally flawed inside of you, and that it was your fault, but it wasn't explained to you in a way that you could understand as a child. You then go for the rest of your life shaming yourself, blaming yourself, abandoning yourself to try and get out ahead of that wounding, to try and protect yourself from it. Okay, so this is where we start to have all these parts of your personality that you have now decided you hate because you've learned kind of along the way, like, well, okay, mom didn't like it when I was like this, dad didn't like it when I was like this, my teachers didn't like it when I was like this, my friends didn't like it when I was like this, and that's all not okay now. That's all something broken and wrong and bad inside of me, and I need to beat myself up for that. I gotta beat myself up for my behaviors, I have to beat myself up for my thoughts, I have to beat myself up for my everything that I'm doing, because I'm trying to get myself back to pre-shame childhood where I can just be and do what I'm doing and feel like love isn't going to go anywhere. Okay? So what you need to understand now is that, yes, the very first time you were shamed, it was because you were abandoned by your caretaker. You got taught that. You got taught that abandonment behavior, right? The taking away of love based on something you did, something you said, something you didn't do, something you didn't say, right? That was taught to you. But from that moment forward, what happened is that you started to take the reins and do that to yourself, right? So now you have these things, you have these personality traits, you have these behaviors that you do, you have things around yourself, memories that you have of your past where you shame yourself and you blame yourself and you take your own love away from you because of these things, right? You learned these things are shameful and therefore I must shame myself. And the reason you're shaming yourself is because you mistakenly but innocently believe that if you just shame yourself enough, it will shame these inappropriate behaviors out of you so that you can receive that love from the outside that you've always wanted, right? And you believe that you are not worthy of that love. You cannot have that love. That love will not come so long as you still have this behavior or this thing or this part of you active. So you shame yourself, you abandon yourself, you treat yourself like shit over and over and over again, right? To try to protect yourself, right? Or anytime you feel shame, you abandon that completely. You feel the shame and you just don't look at it, right? You may be at the place where you can't accept any negative feedback, any criticism. You can't even look at that there might be something that you're doing that's wrong or bad or hurtful to other people or whatever, because your shame is so deep that in order to consider that you might be hurting somebody else, it's like you already feel too terrible about yourself that you can't even do that. You can't even look at how you might be hurting somebody because you're already feeling so shameful that you've had to pile all these self-destructive behaviors and distractions and things on top of it so that you don't feel that shame, right? But it all comes down to shame. So what do you do about it? Okay, so like I said, we innocently believe that if we just abandon ourselves enough times inside of our shameful behavior, if we just tell ourselves enough, it's wrong, it's bad, it's stupid, or we just don't look at it, we just don't even acknowledge that we're hurting other people, we don't even acknowledge that we might be doing things that are hurting other people or harming other people, we're doing that because we think in so doing we're going to get that love back. Okay? So this is what I'm going to say to you. The exact opposite is true. You need to stop abandoning yourself inside of your shame. Every single time you do something or say something or don't do something or don't say something that you find deplorable or despicable about yourself, that is the moment where you need to go in there and say, it's okay that I did that. I still love myself even though I did that. I still love myself even though I did that. I'm not going to run away from me in this moment. I'm not going to sit here and shame and blame myself. I'm not going to tell myself how bad and terrible I am. I'm not going to come up with a plan for how I'm never going to do this again and how bad that was and da-da-da-da-da. Because when you do that, you actually just continue to make the wound that's inside of you deeper and deeper and deeper, which is going to drive you to do that same behavior over and over and over again. Okay, this is shadow work. This is where shadow comes from. The abandonment, right? You were shamed and blamed for something you didn't understand, and then it caused you to mutate and augment yourself into a shadowed aspect of who you were based on not understanding what you did wrong and then trying to figure that out and believing now that you were a bad person, and then you started to behave like a bad person, okay? So most people think that if I love and accept myself inside my shameful behavior, I'm giving myself permission to keep doing it. And I'm just going to stay being this shitty person that I don't want to be. And I'm going to stay doing these shitty things that I don't want to do. But the exact opposite is true. You will heal from anything that is out of alignment with yourself. So any behavior that's actually causing you or someone else harm, that's actually bad behavior, the only way to get rid of it is to love it inside yourself. Okay? Because again, it's a shadow. It's not who you really are. It's because you believe that you are bad that you act bad. Alright? That you hurt yourself or hurt others. You only hurt yourself or hurt others because you believe that you are fundamentally bad. And the only way to heal the chasm of believing that you are fundamentally bad is to love yourself inside of that behavior. Okay? So you love yourself inside of that behavior. Okay, I did that terrible thing. I'm taking responsibility for it. I'm going to apologize to that person. I'm going to tell them, look, this was not okay. I'm not justifying my behavior. But then inside myself, I'm not going to make myself feel terrible about it. I'm going to say, where is the wound that caused me to do that? This is the question. Not what's wrong with me that caused me to do that. Not why am I so terrible? What's wrong with me? What's broken? No. Where's the wound? This is me acting out a wound. When I hurt someone, I do something shameful, I'm acting out a wound. So where's the wound and how can I love it? That is always the question. And then like I say, it will either, as you do this over and over and over again, so not just one time, you're going to have to do this over and over and over again. Every single time you do something shameful, you take responsibility, but not blame. You take responsibility. I am sorry that I hurt you. That was me, right? That was something that I did and I need to look at this. And now I'm going to go inside and I'm going to look for where the wound is, and I'm going to love that wound. I'm going to love that little child inside of me that didn't understand what was going on and that took on the belief that they were bad. That is not true. And I'm going to love it, and I'm going to love it, and I'm going to love it. And then, like I say, all those self-destructive and outwardly destructive habits will start to become clear to you. You're starting to see them in a different light. Things are going to unfold for you. Or you're going to realize that some of the parts of your personality and your being weren't wrong at all. They're not bad. They're not shameful. It's actually okay for you to be the way that you are. And just because your tribe didn't like how you acted didn't actually mean that there was something wrong with you, right? So as you love the wound, you either discover more of your giftings, and then instead of that wound coming out as wound, right? Instead of it coming out as judgment and coming out as criticism and coming out as anger and coming out as all these things, it can start to come out as passion. It can start to come out as discernment. It can start to come out as the gift that it actually is. Or the self-destructive behavior will stop because you no longer believe there's something bad about you that needs to be destroyed. This is all self-destructive behavior is. You have a fundamental belief that there's something wrong and bad about you and you're trying to destroy it, right? So when you heal that wound and you realize there's nothing wrong with you, there's nothing bad about you, self-destructive behavior stops because there's nothing in you to want to destroy. Or you realize it's actually a part of your light and you can shed it as your light, okay? So love the wound. You have to give yourself permission to love yourself inside the wound. You can't beat your way up out of this. It's not going to work because you just actually reinforce the wound, which then reinforces the behavior, okay? You have to love it. I know it's a paradox and I know you're scared to do it, but you have to. That's the only way you're going to heal. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. If you have questions about this, I'll do a follow-up or whatever. Like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. Find me on all the things down below. There's links. That's all great. Come join Patreon. We love each other and hang out 3 times a month, and it's really fun. And yeah, other than that, if you have any video requests, always leave those, and I will see you in the next video.